September 1950, Memphis, Tennessee. The air in the South felt heavy, tight, like a storm waiting to break. Segregation ruled every sidewalk, every restaurant, every theater. The civil rights movement was beginning to stir, not yet loud, not yet organized, but impossible to ignore. White supremacy still controlled the system, the police, the courts, and the streets. And any black man who rose too high, too fast, too visibly, became a threat. At the center of that tension stood Nat King Cole, 31 years old, smooth voice, flawless piano, and at the absolute peak of his career. His song Mona Lisa had just reached #1 on the charts. The first time a black artist had ever achieved that level of mainstream success. White audiences adored him. White women swooned over him. Radio stations played his voice non-stop. And in the South, that kind of admiration was dangerous. Because Nat King Cole wasn't just successful. He was visible. A black man in tailored suits, driving Cadillacs, staying in fine hotels, commanding respect without raising his voice. He didn't shout. He didn't protest. He didn't challenge the system directly. He simply existed with excellence. And for men who had built their entire identity on racial superiority, that was unforgivable. To white supremacists, Nat King Cole represented everything they feared. A black man who was wealthy, admired, powerful, and loved by white audiences. A black man who didn't know his place. A black man who refused to shrink himself to make others comfortable. And in 1950 Memphis, men like that were not supposed to walk freely, let alone headline concerts. So when Nat King Cole announced a stop at the Ellis Auditorium in Memphis, whispers began to circulate. Anger turned into conversations. Conversations turned into plans. And behind closed doors, in rooms where no black man was supposed to hear, certain men decided that Nat King Cole needed to be reminded of his place. Not with words, not with threats, but with violence. They believed the South belonged to them. They believed the law would protect them, and they believed no one would dare stand in their way. What they didn't know, what they never expected, was that Harlem was listening, and that Bumpy Johnson was already on his way. September 8th, 1950, 9:45 p.m. Garrett's Steakhouse, downtown Memphis. The kind of place where the lights are low, the steaks are expensive, and the rules are unspoken. Whites only. No signs needed. Everyone knows. In the dining room, jazz hums softly, glasses clink, cigars burn slow. And moving quietly between the tables is Marcus Webb. Marcus Webb is 34 years old, a black man in a white man's world. Dressed neatly, head down, eyes forward, he moves through the room like a ghost. Seen but never truly noticed. That's how black waiters survived in places like this. Blend in. Listen, don't react, don't exist more than necessary. Marcus has worked here 6 years, long enough to know that the most dangerous conversations happen when powerful men believe no one is listening. Table 7 has been drinking since early evening. 6 white men in tailored suits, expensive watches, cigars glowing like tiny warning lights. Their laughter grows louder with every refill. These are not drunk fools. These are businessmen, an insurance man, a bank manager, a construction magnate, a hardware store owner, a lumber supplier, and one Memphis police detective. Men with money, men with influence, men who believe the law bends for them. Marcus pours bourbon, refills glasses, keeps his face neutral, his hands steady, but his ears are wide open. That colored boy thinks he can just waltz into Memphis and sing for white women. Thomas Crenshaw says, thick-necked, confident, cruel. Crenshaw owns a construction company, money, connections, a reputation for enjoying power. Nat King Cole, Edward Willis adds, the bank manager, making millions off our people. It's an insult. Someone should teach him a lesson. Robert Hayes mutters quietly, not angry, calculated. Then the tone shifts. The laughter drops, and Marcus feels his stomach tighten. We will, says David Morrison, Memphis PD detective. A badge, a gun, and a reputation every black family in the city knows by heart. Thursday night, Carl's basement. 9 o'clock, we finalize the plan. Baseball bats, James Tucker adds casually. The lumberman. Simple, effective. They laugh, not nervous laughter, Confident laughter, the kind that comes from men who don't fear consequences. Marcus keeps pouring, keeps breathing, keeps his face blank, but inside, his heart is racing. Marcus refills the glasses one last time. His hands don't shake. Not here. Not yet. But his mind is screaming. Nat King Cole. Baseball bats. A detective involved. A murder planned like a business deal. These men don't sound worried. They sound certain. Certain no one will stop them. Certain no one will care. Certain no one will dare interfere. What they don't know, what they can't imagine, is that someone already heard everything. Someone who won't stay silent. Someone who knows exactly who to call. And within hours, a phone will ring in Harlem. And when Bumpy Johnson answers, everything will change. Marcus Webb moves quietly through Garrett's steakhouse, pouring bourbon, refilling glasses, smiling when needed, nodding politely. But inside, his heart is pounding like a drum. Every laugh from Table 7 makes it beat faster. Every word they speak drips with menace. This isn't just business. This isn't just drunken boasting. This is a plan for murder. And Marcus knows he's the only one who heard it all. He memorizes faces, recites names in his head. Thomas Crenshaw, Edward Willis, Robert Hayes, James Tucker, David Morrison, Carl Jennings, each man more dangerous than the last. A detective in their midst makes this far more than a threat. It's a conspiracy shielded by power, influence, and privilege. And if Marcus stays silent, Nat King Cole could be dead before sunrise. Thursday night, 11:30 p.m. The restaurant finally empties. The 6 men leave, laughing, confident, completely unaware that someone was listening. Marcus wipes down tables, gathers his composure, and slips into the cool night air. A sense of urgency grips him. He needs to act before it's too late. He finds the payphone on the corner, a small metal box glowing faintly in the darkness. His hands shake as he lifts the receiver. The number he dials is one he memorized 3 years ago. A number given to him by a Pullman porter who whispered almost reverently, "If you ever hear something important, call Bumpy Johnson." The line clicks on the other end. A deep voice answers. "Yeah," it says, calm, low, measured. Marcus swallows hard, voice steady, but quiet. He explains everything. Every detail matters. Names, faces, dates, the basement meeting, the baseball bats, the concert on September 17th. Nat King Cole's life hangs in the balance. There is a long pause. Marcus's stomach twists in fear. Then the voice comes cold, assured, almost ice over fire. "You did the right thing. Now listen carefully, forget this conversation. Go to work like normal. If anything happens, you call this number immediately. I'll handle it." Marcus exhales slowly, barely believing what he just heard. This is Bumpy Johnson, Harlem's undisputed king, the man whose reach and reputation stretch far beyond New York. And somehow, he just accepted a mission that spans 1,000 miles to protect a man he's never met. For Marcus, relief is mixed with awe. He never knew a hero like this existed, a man willing to cross state lines, risk everything, and confront dangerous men to protect the life of another. It is courage in its rawest form, a silent, unstoppable force. And for Nat King Cole, the consequences of this conversation will remain invisible, unseen, unknowable. Marcus hangs up the phone, hands still trembling. He looks at the dark streets of Memphis, the quiet city that could have been a death trap, and realizes that someone powerful is coming. Someone who doesn't ask questions, someone who acts decisively, someone who keeps his promises. And that someone is Bumpy Johnson. At 5 a.m., while Harlem is still asleep, Bumpy Johnson stands in silence inside his apartment. He doesn't pace. He doesn't hesitate. He packs with purpose. 2 clean suits, toiletries, his straight razor, and his .38 revolver. No extra words, no extra weight. Everything he carries has a reason. By 6 a.m., he's on a southbound train leaving Penn Station, and he doesn't tell a single soul where he's going. 40 hours, 6 states, rattling tracks and passing towns. Bumpy sits alone, staring out the window, not reading, not sleeping much, just thinking. Harlem will be fine without him. Stephanie St. Clair will handle the numbers racket. The streets will stay quiet. Business will continue. But this isn't about business. This is about protection. This is about drawing a line that cannot be crossed. When the train finally pulls into Memphis Union Station, the heat hits him like a wall. Thick, wet, southern heat that clings to your skin and refuses to let go. This isn't New York. This is hostile ground. Bumpy adjusts his coat, steps onto the platform and blends in. Another black man arriving quietly, exactly how he wants it. Under the name William Jackson, Bumpy checks into a small colored boarding house on Beale Street. He pays cash for a week. No questions. No records. The landlady barely looks at him. Just another traveler passing through. And that's the point. Bumpy doesn't waste time. By that afternoon, he's walking into a barber shop owned by Samuel Sweet Sam Johnson, a man who once worked Harlem in the 1930s. A man who owes Bumpy a favor from the old days. The shop goes quiet when Bumpy steps inside. Razors pause mid-air. Conversations stop. Sam looks up. His face drains of color. "Bumpy Johnson," Sam whispers. "Lord have mercy." After closing time, they talk. Low voices. No windows open. Bumpy lays the names out calmly. Crenshaw, Willis, Hayes, Tucker, Morrison, Jennings. Sam fills in the blanks. Who's connected to the White Citizens Council? Who finances segregation efforts? Who supplies lumber for Klan crosses? Who carries a badge and ensures things look like accidents? Bumpy listens. He doesn't interrupt. He absorbs everything. Faces, habits, routines, where they drink, where they work, where they feel safe. By the time he leaves the shop, Bumpy knows enough to move forward. For the next 3 days, Monday through Wednesday, Bumpy becomes a ghost in Memphis. He watches Carl Jennings' hardware store, learns the basement layout, finds the back alley entrance, unlocked, no security, amateurs. He follows David Morrison from the precinct to Murphy's Tavern, every night. Same stool, same drink, same routine. He pays a cleaning woman $20 to confirm Edward Willis's banking schedule, tracks Crenshaw's construction office, notes Hayes's habits, where they park, when they're alone, when they feel untouchable. Bumpy doesn't rush. He never does. Power doesn't hurry. Power waits. By Wednesday evening, everything is clear. The meeting. Thursday night, 9 p.m. Jennings' hardware basement. 6 men, 6 baseball bats, 1 plan. Bumpy stands across the street as the sun sets, calm, focused, certain. He knows exactly what each man will do. He knows who will reach for a weapon first, who will hesitate, who will fold. He doesn't plan to kill them all. He plans something far more effective: fear, memory, consequence. Bumpy Johnson didn't travel 1,000 miles to negotiate. He came to end a threat before it ever reached Nat King Cole. And by the time Thursday night arrives, he is ready. September 14th, 1950. Thursday night, 8:45 p.m. The alley behind Jennings' hardware smells like oil, rust, and old wood. The streetlights barely reach back here. Shadows do the rest. Bumpy Johnson stands still in the darkness, dressed in all black. In his right hand, a straight razor. In his waistband, a .38 revolver. He isn't nervous. He's patient. And patience for a man like Bumpy is more dangerous than rage. At 9:10 p.m., headlights flash briefly as cars pull in one by one. 6 men arrive, laughing, joking, confident. They talk about Sunday night like it's already done, like Nat King Cole is already dead. Bumpy listens from the shadows as the back door opens and closes behind them. The lock clicks. Unlocked. Just like he expected. Bumpy waits a moment longer, lets the room fill with voices. Then he steps forward, opens the door, and walks inside. The basement is lit by a single hanging bulb. 6 men sit around a wooden table. 6 baseball bats lean against the wall. A hand-drawn map of Ellis Auditorium is spread out in front of them. A bold X marks the parking spot where they plan to kill Nat King Cole. The door clicks shut behind Bumpy. 6 men, 6 bats, 1 black man. Silence. For 3 long seconds, no one moves, no one breathes. Then Thomas Crenshaw stands up, chair scraping loudly against the concrete. "Who the hell are you?" he demands. "This is private." Bumpy doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't rush. He walks calmly to the table and places his razor directly on top of the map, right over the X. "Sit down." Bumpy says quietly. My name's Bumpy Johnson, he says. I'm from Harlem, and I'm here because you gentlemen are planning to murder Nat King Cole. Edward Willis opens his mouth to deny it. Bumpy cuts him off. Don't lie to me. He starts naming them one by one. Thomas Crenshaw, Edward Willis, Robert Hayes, James Tucker, David Morrison. Yes, detective. I know you're a cop. And Carl Jennings, stupid enough to host a murder meeting in his own basement. The room goes cold. Bumpy gestures toward the bats. I know the plan. After the concert, follow him to his car. Beat him to death. Send a message. David Morrison shifts in his chair, instinctively reaching for a gun that isn't there. He left it at the station. Thought he wouldn't need it. Looking for this. Bumpy taps his .38 lightly. I'm armed. You're not. So sit still. Then Crenshaw makes a mistake. He reaches for one of the baseball bats. Bumpy moves instantly. Not with the gun, with the razor. A flash of steel slices through the air. Crenshaw screams as blood pours from a deep cut across his forearm. Not fatal, but permanent. A reminder. Crenshaw collapses back into his chair, clutching his arm. Blood drips onto the concrete floor. Bumpy holds the razor up, now red. Anyone else? No one moves. Good, Bumpy says. He walks slowly around the table, razor in one hand, gun in the other. His voice calm, almost friendly, and that terrifies them more than shouting ever could. You think you're dangerous because you've got bats, numbers, a badge on your side, he says, but real danger is a man who traveled 1,000 miles to protect someone he's never met. He stops behind Robert Hayes, places the razor gently against his throat. Hayes freezes. This blade has opened more throats than you've threatened lives. Bumpy continues. Men tougher than you, smarter than you, and they all learned the same lesson. The razor presses just enough to draw a thin line of blood. Hayes whimpers. Nat King Cole is protected, Bumpy says quietly. Harlem protects its own, even 1,000 miles from home. He steps back, looks at each man in turn. Their fear fills the room. One of them has wet himself. Here's the new plan, Bumpy says. On September 17th, none of you will be anywhere near that auditorium. And if we refuse, Willis whispers. Bumpy doesn't hesitate. Then I kill all 6 of you. He tears the map in half, lets it fall to the floor. I know where you live. I know where your children go to school. I know where you drink, where you feel safe. Their faces turn pale. If anything happens to Nat King Cole, anywhere, I'll come back. Bumpy pauses. Not with a razor, with fire. He moves toward the door, stops, turns back one last time. Get him bandaged, he says, nodding at Crenshaw. Tell the hospital it was broken glass, then cold and final. September 17th. Stay home. Stay alive. The door closes behind him, and the 6 men sit in silence, knowing their lives have just changed forever. September 17th, 1950. Ellis Auditorium, Memphis. 2,000 fans crowd the seats, buzzing with excitement, unaware of the danger that had stalked their idol just days before. The air is thick with anticipation. The smell of perfume, polish, and sweat hangs over the audience like a fog. Nat King Cole arrives in a sleek black Cadillac. The engine hums as it stops at the curb. He steps out, waves to the small crowd waiting outside, flashes that gentle, effortless smile. Smooth, calm, confident, unaware of how close death had come for him. The world sees only the superstar, never the threat that hovered in the shadows. Across the street, Bumpy Johnson watches silently, eyes scanning every entrance, every face, every movement. Each step, each shift of the crowd is catalogued. Every suspicious car, every lingering figure, every potential threat is noted. He doesn't blink, he doesn't relax, not until the music begins. Bumpy slips into the auditorium just as Nat sits at the piano. The spotlight hits him, warm and golden, casting the rest of the stage in shadow. Nat begins to play Mona Lisa. The first notes ripple through the room, smooth as silk, mesmerizing, effortless. Every chord, every pause, Every delicate nuance reminds Bumpy why he traveled 1,000 miles, why he risked life and limb in a basement full of armed, dangerous men. The music fills the space, echoing off the walls, touching everyone present, yet only Bumpy knows the stakes. Every note, every measure is proof that what he did mattered, that protection, courage, and silent heroism can change history without anyone ever knowing it. The concert continues flawlessly. Nat glides through his set, commanding the stage, charming the crowd and leaving them in awe. The audience stands, applauds, cheers, and still Bumpy remains vigilant, silent, patient, observing, until the final note hangs in the air, delicate, perfect, unbroken. After the concert, Nat signs autographs, shakes hands, laughs with fans, unaware that his life had been spared by a man he'd never meet. The Cadillac waits. He climbs in, waves one last time, drives safely to his hotel. The audience disperses, oblivious to the narrow escape. He walks through the quiet streets of Memphis, past the dim lights of the city, past the houses and the bars, past the people who will never know the debt they owe. Every step measured, calm, every thought focused on the journey back. That night, Bumpy catches the midnight train to Harlem, 40 hours north, 6 states again. But this time there is no tension, no anticipation, only the quiet satisfaction of a job done, a life protected, and a promise kept. He returns to Harlem as he left it, ghost-like, invisible to most, legendary to those who know. Victory is silent, and Bumpy Johnson, once more, remains the unseen guardian, the shadow who intervenes when courage alone is not enough. Nat King Cole never knew the full story, never knew the basement, the 6 men, the razor, or the promise that protected him. All he knew was that he performed, that the audience cheered, and that he was safe. But Bumpy Johnson knew, and that was enough. Nat King Cole never knew about the basement in Memphis, never knew the 6 men who had plotted his death, never knew the blood that had been spilled in the shadows to ensure he would walk onto that stage safely. He only knew the music, the applause, the life he lived in the light, unaware of the danger that lurked just beyond it. Years later, in 1963, Ebony magazine asked him about touring the South during the most dangerous years for black performers. The interviewer leaned in, curious about fear, about courage, about what it took to step into those cities where hatred could erupt at any moment. "I should have been afraid," Nat said quietly, his voice calm, thoughtful. "The threats were real. The hatred was real. But somehow I always felt protected, like guardian angels were watching over me." He paused, looking out the window as if he could see those unseen forces still hovering in the distance. The kind of protection that never makes headlines, never earns medals, and never gets recognition. Those angels were real. They were not saints, not spirits, not miracles. They had a name, Bumpy Johnson.